My name is the Honest Pokemon Trainer. If you enjoy the content that you're seeing, like, comment, share and subscribe. It really helps this channel going forward. And to let you know, this video will contain strong language, so you have been warned. Right, I'm off for a few beers down the pub. See you later.
I wanna be the very best.
Pikachu?
No one ever was.
Now I'm about to say something that's a little bit controversial in the Pokemon community. I'm about to agree with Versi Baby on something. And don't worry, it's not on everything, it's just on this one little matter. Are we okay, Tony? We okay? Good. Now what I want to really just talk about is the issue of time stalling in the VGC community. Now probably to do this I'm going to talk about what it is, the examples of it, why I hate it, and how it can really be stopped. So the first thing is actually, what is it? Now time stalling is when somebody intentionally runs down the clock hoping to gain the win condition of a timeout. One example of this was during a Worlds event where Trista was playing Michael. I'm not going to pronounce their surnames because I don't know how to do it. But either way, Michael was in a situation where he wasn't going to win, or the chances are he wasn't going to win. So he saw that the only way he could win was actually to use a timeout. He intentionally slow played the game, and whilst I might bring in points later on, Michael admitted that he did this. He actually admitted that he time stalled it, and that's what really pisses me off.
If you had to guess, what would you say were some of the moments that the caster started screaming?
Definitely when I timer stalled her at the end.
Why do I hate time stalling? Well, the simple matter of the fact is I see it as very unsportsmanly. Call me old-fashioned, but that's how I am, and I feel it's a very, very crap way to win. Now, the main reason why I call it unsportsmanly compared to anything else is because that the opponent has no control about what you do. Some may say it's just a viable strategy, like if you use the minimize toxic way forward. But there are ways to stop that happening, such as taunt, haze, fake out, feint, encore. There's a whole range of things to stop that sort of technique happening from in the first place. However, with time stalling, the opponent has no way of really countering that apart from wanting to smack them in the face with a console and making them push the buttons themselves. Yes, you can use examples from other games. Street Fighter, for example. Street Fighter has a timer, like Pokemon does. However, even if someone decides they want to go for the win condition of I've got more HP than them, the clock's about to run out, I just need to block like crazy to hopefully get that more health on the win condition when the time runs out, the other person can actually do something about it. They can get in there, they can try and break that guard, they can try and get a combo in, they can try and get that health down as best they can. But in this situation, the opponent can't. I can use a sport such as football or soccer, depending on where you go. Now, there's times when there's time stalling in that, or wasting time, depending on how you look at it. The legitimate ways of doing that is when either the ball goes to the goalkeeper, and whilst the ball's in play, he keeps it at his feet until the opposing player decides to go charge him down, then the keeper will pick that up. Or, if you run it into the corner, and the other team will kick it out. Now, these are seen as legitimate strategies, because the opponent can actually do something about that. It's up to the opponent to go charge that player down. However, in football, it also has its problems of time wasting. This could be whether the opponent's taking too long to take a free kick or a goal kick, or they're faking an injury. The referee can step in, and if they believe that genuine time is being wasted, they can give them a yellow card, or depending on where they are, a red card if they've got 2 yellow cards. And that's where the difference is if you look at the football thing. If you keep it in the corner, or if it's at the goalkeeper's feet, that is up to the opponent, who can actually make an impact on that time wasting. It's up to the opponent to sort that out. In situations where you fake an injury, or you take too long for a goal kick, the opponent could do nothing to sort that out. And that is blatantly cheating, in my opinion, because that's just time wasting. You know, and no one can call you out for it. We all know it happens, and everyone gets pissed off about it, but nothing ever seems to get done. You know, I've had examples where people have time stalled me. In fact, I wasn't just time stalled, I was battery stalled. And what I mean by that, there was the time stall condition coming in for the opponent, and my battery was running out, and the opponent admitted he was going to be doing it. I was looking at him going, you are joking. because I was going to beat him with a toxic strategy. And he looked at me and went, nope, I'm hoping your battery runs out or run on the timer. And he had such a smug face. Now, God only forbid the things that were going in my head when I was looking at this smug bastard. Kind of think this was kind of going through my head. But we know we can't do that because that's not legal. Kind of possibly murder. However, I can get him back by crushing his hands when I do a handshake. That'd be fun. There are a lot of people on the fence about time stalling. There are people like me, or Percy Baby, and support the fact that we think it's a bollocks thing and it's unsportsmanship-like, it's cheating, and there are people who do get really passionate behind it. Then there are people who say they have no problem with it. They say it's a viable win condition, it's within the rules. You know, it's if you want to do this, if you think it's a win condition, you should be able to go for it. And the fact that you can't really time stall something that has a fixed time, you know, it's a 50-minute match. That's what both players get given, you sign up for this. Likewise with football, it's a 90-minute match, so you can't really stall time. For me, I see it as a bit of a dirty way to win. That's my opinion. You might not share the same opinion, that's fair enough. But I couldn't just imagine retelling the story and be proud of it. Imagine if you were retelling the story. Oh, darling, can you tell that time when you won the World Championships by time stalling? Oh, yes, darling, well, I just sat there, knew I was going to win by a timeout, so I just sat there and laughed at the bitch as she cried. Oh, it was so much better when you licked her tears. For those sweet, sweet crying tears. Yes, then I slapped her in the face and spat it in her eye. Yeah. I just couldn't see that as a good thing. You know, I won by time stalling. For me, I just don't like it. I hate it. I don't think it's a proud moment. But let's look at it. Is it a fair rule? Is it one of those that it is breaking the rules, or is it slightly bending them? Now, the rules state about sportsmanship-like behaviour. Now, using the clock itself is a win condition, true. If you have a higher percentage of Pokemon with better health than the opponent, then you will win on the time condition once it runs out. However, it does also say unsportsmanship behaviour is when you intentionally run down the clock to do that. So if you openly admit that you ran down the clock, that's unsportsmanship behaviour, which is a game loss.
Definitely when I timer stalled her at the end.
I can't see where the effect is. You've openly admitted it, it's in the rules. But the problem is, it rarely gets enforced by the professors. And I think, you know, the problem is it's very subjective. I imagine they would all be meeting up and it'd just be an absolute chaotic situation. You'd have one going, oh, I think that this person has time stalled. Well, I don't think he's time stalled. I think he's run completely fine. I think he's a cheeky little bastard, but he's got away with it. But no, it's unsportsmanship-like behaviour. No, it's not. He's just been a cheeky little cunt and he's got away with it. What time's lunch? Fuck off, Jeffrey. We're talking about a serious matter here. But the thing is, how do you prove it? Now, when it comes down to law, you have to have intent. If you don't have intent and you can't prove intent, then officially a crime hasn't been committed. You know, say for example you wanted to steal something, you have to prove that that person had the intent to steal that item. And that's very much the same with this. You have to have the intent that they actually meant to time stall. Now this is when you get away from the people who are just thinking about their moves, because sometimes 45 seconds isn't a lot of time. And unless they actually walk away from the table when they know they've got the win condition and just go, bugger, I've done it, I don't have to do anything else. Or you have in that opening video where they openly admit that they time stalled, it's very difficult to prove. But also, it's also a heat of the moment thing, because people say it's an acceptable win condition. But when does it become an acceptable win condition? When you've got 2 minutes left, 5 minutes left, 10 minutes left? And at the same time, you know, I'd like to think I wouldn't do it. Let's be honest, you're going to have pretty big balls to be able to throw away a match that you know you're going to win to hold your principles. I'd like to think I'd be able to do that, but if there's a place on Worlds, you're going to be fighting it, and you don't tell me anyone will be fighting that urge. And again, I'd like to hope I'll be a better person and would be able to stick to my morals, but you don't know until they actually put you in that scenario. But how would you actually solve this problem? Well, it often gets put down at Nintendo and Game Freak's door and says, well, you should sort this out, it's your mess, look at the situation that you created. However, they're in a very, very tricky position because if you remove the clock, the overall game timer, and remove the idea of win condition in that way, VGC would go on for days and days and days. And if for those who have not been to a VGC event, if you've got 8 rounds of Swiss with potentially 3 games each, you know, there's always times when you've got 1 or 2 games going on where everybody else is done already and you're waiting around going, fucking hell, would you hurry up? And if that went on all the time for every game, it wouldn't finish. It just would not finish, and Nintendo have to do something. But the other side of it is that the judges need to be firmer. The judges need to say, do you know what, I actually think that somebody is time stalling, I'm going to give you a game loss. However, then you've got, again, the same problem is that they could just object and said, no, I'm not time stalling, I am just thinking about my decisions, prove that I'm time stalling. And unless you can get into their brain, you can't prove it. Personally, I'd love it if some little kid came up to me, as if I was a Pokemon professor, that,
Excuse me, sir, I think that man's time stalling me and he's cheating.
hey mate, are you time stalling this little ginger bastard?
No, I'm not. What are you going to do about it?
Finish him!
No matter where you sit when it comes to this matter, I've heard instances where people involved in these sort of things have been receiving online abuse and even been receiving death threats. Grow the fuck up. It's Pokemon, it's a game. Even if it was football and people were doing this, there's never a point where you can justify throwing abuse at somebody, throwing death threats around. It's absolutely disgusting. Don't get me wrong, I hate people who time stall, I think they're bellends, but I'm not actually going to start cursing them online, going around the house, threatening to kill them. You've just got to basically just go, do you know what, I don't like that strategy, I hate it, I think it's an unsportsmanship like, I'll shake your hand, I'll move on, I'll get pissed off and cry alone to myself asleep at night. But at no point should you ever cross that line and actually threaten someone, whether online or face to face or any sort of way. And if you do so, you're an absolute prick. But to sum the whole thing up, you're never going to get an answer to this. Unless Nintendo and Game Freak are able to actively work out if somebody is intentionally time stalling, you are never going to get an answer to the problem. They can't remove the clock because everybody would then be playing VGC for days on end and it would never end. And I've got to go to work and it's never going to happen. And I probably need some beer at that point. To sum all this up, I don't think you're going to get a solution. I don't think unless Nintendo and Game Freak can categorically work out a way that somebody is actually game stalling, that this problem's going to be resolved. They can't remove the clock because VGC will go on forever. And they can't categorically prove you're time stalling unless somebody actually stupidly admits, like in the first video, that they actually were time stalling. It puts judges in a difficult position because they're going to have to make calls which people could argue that's subjective and you can't prove it. But then you've got people like me who are just going to get pissed off because it seems that time stallers are getting away with it, and whilst the opponent can't do anything to stop it, they've just got to sit there and take it on the chin. Don't get me wrong, as much as it annoys me, I will always shake somebody's hand, whether I agree with their strategy or not, because this is only a game at the end of the day, and never will I wish upon harm about somebody else. I always think that a matter like time stalling is something that will just continue and never end. And to sum up, this is probably how my head actually thinks when I'm dealing with time stallers. So, any last words, you time staller?
I pray I'd make the right choice again. I fought. I lost. Now I rest.
Oh, piss off, you cunt.